Hello everyone, Dr. Barry here. Before I start, I would definitely recommend you hit subscribe and the notification bell so you are updated every time we post a new video or one of our impromptu videos. Okay, so this is the first video after we talked about the introduction of the Kybalion and the 7 Hermetic principles. These following videos are gonna kind of focus on one principle at a time and see how it applies to us in a practical way, in a when it comes to mindfulness and understanding our situation and having a higher perspective. So I had mentioned in the earlier video a little background of the origin of this text of the Kybalion. It is an ancient philosophy from the time of ancient Egypt. It has taken its influence from the teachings of Hermes, also known as Hermes Trismegistus or Hermes the Thrice Great. He's had many names, including Thoth, and was considered a god in ancient Egypt, also considered a god in ancient Greek mythology. And a lot of these deities in these ancient philosophies have given them the power of nature. And so they were given a certain attribute to have the power to control certain things in the universe and in nature. But moving forward, so there were 7 principles that the entire Kybalion text is written on. And the text is, just the way, in the Tao Te Ching in the ancient Chinese scripture has 81 verses. And the Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters. This particular text has the 7 principles. However, each principle is divided into, in what you would call a maxim, an axiom, and a precept. So what is a maxim? It's a short statement of truth that's put forward, like all is the mind. An axiom is a statement or a proposition, and it's more to kind of push you towards understanding the truth behind it or the concept behind it. All is the mind, the universe is mental. So kind of give you a little bit more of a background. And then it comes to kind of a precepts or almost generating a law based on what was just stated. So the first principle, which is all is the mind and the universe is mental. So I will start off by saying that this is the ultimate principle, because all the remaining principles 2 to 6 kind of fall under this principle, and this being the umbrella, kind of encompassing everything else that falls under it. So this principle takes on the effort to describe what can be considered the all, or what you would want to call the spirit. And for Hermetic philosophers, it's the encompassing of life, matter, energy. Everything falls within the all. And it has been given various names, like the all supreme mind, or the universal consciousness, the spirit. Many a times in traditions that have followed have deified this power or this concept of all as a deity. And so depending on your understanding of it, or what you have thought of it, in your journey so far, the Hermetic philosophers go to describing the all as something that is undefinable, as in something that is all encompassing, but because it is all encompassing, it is really, there's nothing outside of it to see what is the all. So it is something that really goes beyond definition and understanding and confinement into A or B or C or any type of specific shape or form. So I would read this particular paragraph of this text, and it says, the material universe, or the phenomenon of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable, undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite living mind. So that is in short what I just said. And this is like the basis of all the other principles that are going to follow. And what I think is, of application to, or why I think it makes sense to kind of understand this philosophy or this particular concept in in the scope of what we're trying to achieve here, and that is a greater understanding of mindfulness and how we can apply it to our day-to-day lives. And I think about the ability to understand that all is the mind. And if the Hermetists, or the students of Hermetic principles, have been defined as the great philosophers, the great psychologists, the great astrologers of ancient times, and many of and the alchemists of ancient times. So olden day alchemy gave rise to chemistry, modern day chemistry. Olden day astrologers, or the astronomy that was thought of that was described in hieroglyphics, and was later on became more scientific and understood through Plato and Newton and Einstein, and it was brought into hardcore science. And then of course we have psychology, which has influenced a lot of modern day concepts of understanding the functioning of the mind. So it is definitely a very resourceful origin that we can take a practical understanding from. And if you can think about the ability of the ancient day students of hermetics in how the civilization at that time was able to build something as scientific and astronomically accurate as the pyramids in Egypt. So there's definitely a lot to be said about that, and understood as to their depth of knowledge without having the internet and everything else, and the modern day technology that we have in this day and age. And so there was definitely a lot of this teaching that helped them. And so the most interesting aspect of all is the mind is that it says that this entire creation and everything that is that you understand or see around you is within the confines of the mind, within the confines of this all pervading higher consciousness, or the ultimate consciousness. And according to the principle that if all is the mind, then everything that changes within the mind has the ability to change everything else that is within the mind. That means that if the mind is all controlling, the matter, the energy, the life that is within the mind's creation can also be altered. And I find this fascinating because it takes you on to exploring the concepts of psychic phenomena, the law of attraction, bringing in what you desire by having a certain mindset. And that is where these principles originate from, or understanding originates from, is that once you think it, you are able to bring that in, because it creates a chain reaction. And because alchemy, or you can call chemistry, is so related to matter, there's something called as mental transmutation in this principle of all is the mind. And mental transmutation is, and transmutation, what transmutation means is, in alchemy, it's defined as, converting one metal into another. And so in the fictional character of Harry Potter, you have the Philosopher's Stone, and which had certain properties of, it touches something, it would convert it into something else. So like the golden touch, and you convert it into gold. So it's the ability to touch, or it's the ability to convert matter from one state into another is alchemy. So the alchemical processes of mental transmutation would have the ability to transform matter with just a thought. And that to me is fascinating. And so when we always say that, we attract what we constantly think of in our life. And this is where this comes from. And this is not just, at a mental level, and we start seeing it in a physical environment. We also can understand this at a chemical level, because and we always think it's the body has more control over the mind, which over time science has proved it the other way, that the mind is powerful enough to alter the different body states. And that's what we understand from yoga and meditation, is the mind is capable of altering chemistry within the body. So it's not just biochemical chemistry we're talking about, which in turn affects the physiology and physiologic functions of the body. It becomes like a snowball effect of what your mental state is doing and how that changes the chemistry of your body. And now that we also understand the presence of the microbiome, which is also one of my favorite topics in modern day science, even though the microbiome is historic as the Kybalion, it just brings to light more light that we are very connected, mind, body, and skin. So the microbiome shows us or establishes a scientific basis for the skin, gut, brain axis. So we have various thoughts that can trigger different reactions, chemical reactions within the body that can transform, and nervousness can bring diarrhea. You can have flushing of your skin when you're anxious. You're in love and you have palpitations. This is all a mental effect on the body. And there is a physiochemical process that is happening. And how can we take this and understand? So it is established that the mental state has an effect on the body. How can we use this law to understand mental transmutation? And mental transmutation is that that your mind has the ability to alter the state around you, not just within you, but also around you through the law of attraction, through various different examples that you can cite about you have this feeling that something's going to go wrong. Like I talk about the intuitiveness of knowing of things. So how, as according to the Hermetic philosophers, the masters of this philosophy were able to change matter around them so they could influence, or they could experience only the higher vibrations and not experience any low vibrations, because they would just be able to change, or they were so controlling of their thought that the things around them would change. And this might be, it definitely takes a while to kind of grasp it, but it gives you kind of a structure to go on. Now, when I first, was reading or going through this first principle, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I did summarize all 7 of them before, but it goes into the depths of understanding, and we will do that in the following videos, is the polarization or the law of correspondence, as below so above, as above so below. So there are various different laws that we're going to go over that will all fall under this one law of all is the mind. That what you are experiencing in life is an experience of the mind, and at the same time created by the mind. And so it brings to importance the the utmost, I would say, requirement of having the highest thoughts about, not just about what your life is, but also about yourself. And that is going to be, in my opinion, a way to cultivate it's almost like a practice of we do affirmations and we have intentions, but this is such a powerful phenomenon if you think about it. I mean, the ancient texts talk about it, and it is definitely of significance because it has the ability of alchemy. We literally change matter and change through a chemical process, through an energetic process, through attracting these things into our lives and the people that we see. So I'll just read this quote. The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes, which exist for eons of time, and yet to the all, the creation, development, decline, and death of a million universes is as the time of the twinkling of an eye. And that is just to give an idea of the vastness of what the Hermetics considered the mind. And there's one more quote I would read. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, is beyond true naming, but the wise men call it the all, which is the mind. And so in olden day, or I should say ancient alchemy, what they looked for was how can we quantify or consider something, like when I was talking about the deities or as different religions, and wanted to confine or say that this person is the all, or the Almighty, the Father, the Mother God, or the Father God, or the energy is all, or the universe is all. And different philosophies have considered different concepts of this. And in alchemical scientists, even in the Hermetic as Hermetic students, will consider the matter, call it matter is the all, the prima materia, which is basically what they would need to convert anything into anything. And that was like their way of considering that if we had the prima materia, we would be able to create whatever we want. So that is from, and if it is defined correctly according to Hermetic philosophy, that this prima materia is nothing but the mind, we have all we need to create the universe that we want. And so with that being a short summary, I would highly encourage to read a little bit more about the first principle of the Kybalion, through which is, there are various different texts, like I say, that talk about it. This one, believe it or not, and there are also texts that where the authors are extremely devoted and humble students, which I find fascinating and I admire a lot, that they don't actually give their names. and so a lot of texts are like that. Some of them do have names, like I have several of their texts, several different translations of the Hermetica, and I would highly encourage that you pick up the book and definitely dive into the principles, because every time I feel I read it, I would learn something new. So stay tuned for the second principle. We'll go a little bit deep into that as well. And so with that, I hope you definitely hit subscribe so you can get our updates, and let me know if you have any questions. Glad and love. Thank you.